Welcome to another episode of Celebrating Small Family Businesses.
Yay.
Today we are celebrating Allen and Barbara Doeringer of Whippet Properties and maybe something else. So, hi guys, how are you?
Great.
Good morning.
Great. How are you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I recall that we talked a little bit, and you guys have actually been working in real estate together for something like 25 years. So tell us a little bit about your how you met and your history together and what it's like working with each other for that long.
I don't know that I want Alan to tell his side of the story because it starts with a phone call. I was still in Pennsylvania, and I called down. There was a sales position open at a manufactured home community. I had never done real estate. I was working in banking for 17 years, but I was trying to move down to Florida. My son and daughter had already moved here. Do you want to tell your story about the phone
No,
call?
you go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll add my 2 cents worth if I need to.
Well, anyway, I did take the position. Our house in Pennsylvania hadn't sold yet, so my late husband at the time, he stayed behind for about 6 weeks till we finally did get our home sold. But the very first day that I set foot in this sales office, I met Alan, and he was assigned to train me.
Yeah, and she's been training me ever since.
And has she accomplished anything?
Not much. No, I'm a slow learner.
Sounds about right. Sounds about normal.
Exactly.
Me too.
Anyway, he says I was not very nice on the phone call, and I find that hard to believe because, I'm always nice when I talk on the phone. But the story is I had called the manager at least 3 times, and she had never returned my call. So what did I say, Ellen, according to you?
Well, you just told her that, or you told me to tell her that if she's not interested, just forget about it. And you just hung up. So I thought, well, that was kind of rude. But as it turned out, she's not rude at all. She's a very nice lady.
Just
As
setting
I
some
learned.
boundaries.
As he was trained.
That's
As he
right.
was trained. All right. So that was, you said manufactured home. So here in Florida, that was, I think you said in the 90s, right? So
Yes, it was 1999, and you didn't need a real estate license because the homes were on leased land. So we both worked together as a team there until the owner sold out of new manufactured homes, and then he paid to have all of us get our real estate licenses so that we could all stay together as a team. He formed a small real estate company at the time. Now, during all of this, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and Alan was going through a terrible divorce. So we were kind of leaning on each other, going through traumatic experiences at the same time. So we became the best of friends. And as the story goes, my husband passed away not too long after that, and Alan got his divorce, and then we ended up starting to date a while later.
what a great way to start a relationship as good friends. That's
Yeah, we were
But
really
she
good
did
friends
make
for a
me
couple
wait
of
a
years.
year. She made me wait a year before she accepted my proposal to marriage.
Well, I had to check him out a little further.
See how much more trainable you were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I thought you
So
were gonna
after,
say-
go ahead, John.
Alan, I thought you were going to say she made you wait a year before she'd go out on a date. And I remember, I can't remember what the name of the doctor somebody. She was a radio personality, but she had a show about dating, and that was one of her primary rules. Especially if you're leaving a difficult relationship or whatever, wait a year before you get into another relationship because so many times people jump,
Rebound.
they rebound right into. From one situation into a mirrored situation that they just don't recognize the familiarity, the similarity.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, it helps when you work together and you're friends for a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
So you pretty much get to know each other well.
I would think so. Yeah. And you've seen each other, in this case, you've seen each other under all sorts of stress, and which a lot of relationships they don't have that experience. They don't have that to draw on. Everybody's got their happy face on and they're putting the best foot forward.
All the time, right.
That's
and then all of a sudden they get I didn't realize that.
And the ironic part was both of us were married to our other spouses exactly 32 years.
Wow.
Also very, very supportive of moving forward together because you had a very similar amount of experience with those relationships.
Right.
So now we've been married together 22 years.
This week.
This week.
Happy anniversary.
And so we always tell people that we've been married 54 years.
You have
just
been.
not to each other.
There you go.
That's a great conversation starter right there.
Yeah, we decided to celebrate 50 years of marriage 4 years ago on a cruise because we said, well, we're not going to live long enough to hit 50 years together, but we've been married that long, just not to each other. So
beautiful.
we did it.
Who cares?
What a great
Yeah.
framing too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So,
Yep.
what was the transition? I guess when you're currently in it, you have your own brokerage, you have your own business. So when did that start?
Well, not soon enough, actually. We lived in Davenport. We worked for a builder after we left the owner of the community that had the manufactured homes. His real estate company really didn't take off. But we ended up working as a team for a builder in Davenport, which is near Disney. And we actually built our own home there in the same community. So once they were sold out, then Allen took off with all the resales because we knew all of our neighbors. We knew most of the people in there. And he shifted me off. We were married now, so he shifted me off to work back with a real estate company as a transaction coordinator so that we had a stable income coming in. Because, of course, when you're working in construction, or resales, you don't get any money until that closes. So there were months that might go by that no income was coming in. So I went and got a stable income while his lineup of homes were getting ready to close.
I see. Okay, so the transaction coordinator was more of a salaried position than depending on those commissions. Okay.
But anyway, do you remember what happened, Alan, as to why I got my broker's license?
No, but I'm sure you'll remind me.
Well, we were working for this small company, the small real estate company, a husband and wife. They were both British. And we had one instance where we were on vacation and there was going to be a closing, and our broker only had to get a couple of papers signed. Well, I mean, we had done everything, for the transaction. But she decided that she was going to take half of my commission simply because she had to get a couple of papers signed. And it really, really upset us. And I said to Ellen, I said, you know what? It's time for me to go get my broker's license so that this never happens again. But unfortunately, we lived in a 55 plus community where you could not have a business out of your own home. There was a lot of restrictions through the HOA. So I did get my broker's license, but I stayed with the company. Because I got that, we kind of came to a better agreement because she knew I could leave at any time. And so she was a lot more fair with commissions after that. But I didn't want to go out and have to spend all this money, with an office and, all the overhead and everything I really didn't need. So I stayed as a broker associate from 2009 until we moved to Florida, or I'm sorry, not Florida, but Tampa in 2020.
Okay, so the strategy of getting your broker's license and setting yourself up to open a business was enough to accomplish your task without actually opening the business.
Right.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
But then we moved to Tampa and decided that now's the time to start our own business, or Barbara's own business. And we did.
Yeah, but what happened when we moved to Tampa?
Oh, COVID hit
A
and
week
everything
later.
shut down. Yeah, it
Rough
was
time.
within a week. Um, we had this new real estate company, but nobody was looking at homes. Nobody was going out of their home. No one was going to restaurants to eat. Nothing was happening. So it was very stagnant for the first
First
year.
year.
The first couple of years, it was very slow.
Right.
It's really only now starting to pick up for us.
Okay. And so, how did you manage through COVID, if it's all right to ask?
Well, it wasn't easy. I mean, we did a lot of networking with people that we knew from over in the Davenport area because we were there 20 years. Now, what you didn't ask me was why we named our company Whippet Properties, which a lot of people, that's the first thing they ask. Um, I was supposed to be the broker of record for a friend over in Davenport who was from England, and all of her niche were British buyers and sellers. And she was going to form her own company and just have me as the broker to help run it. And then COVID hit. And I was actually, all the paperwork was done with the state of Florida. Everything was handled. Everything was ready to go. And we were, on our way 4 weeks in. She closed. She resolved after just 4 weeks because of COVID, because nobody could come over from England. Nobody could go over there, to England. I mean, everything was shut down, and she knew she couldn't make it because that was her only, niche. That was her only sales area. So there I was again, well, I either go back to another franchise, which I was with, or start my own. And this friend was well known to another friend of mine who owned 2 Whippet dogs. And we sat in her living room, Allen and I, and she and her husband and the 2 Whippet dogs. And we were trying to figure out, okay, now because she was going to be one of my agents, do we go back or do I form whatever? We were trying to come up with a name. And Allen says, well, here's the dogs. He says, what about Whippet Properties? And I loved it because I thought, okay, I can do a lot with that. That's catchy. We can use Devo's theme song and whip it good and, come up with all kinds of cute taglines and giveaways and marketing materials. So that's how it came about.
I see. Very cool. Well, yeah, that's a, like you say, it's a much catchier name than say, A and B Properties. I think a lot of people, with Allen and Barbara would just go right to A and B because the old yellow pages, you want to be in the AAA and so you get the first listing and all that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah,
And who's
that's
going to
very
remember a
cool.
Doeringer Realty? Nobody cares. But everywhere I go, they go, oh, you're Whippet.
There you go.
In fact,
So well
we
done.
used to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings, and they would always call us Mr. and Mrs. Whippet.
Great branding. I mean, you couldn't
Yeah.
pay for that.
No.
I know. Yeah.
Wow.
No. And the
job.
logo that I had created, I wanted them to have, just a tiny little piece of a Whippet dog on the end of a home. And they did a great job. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it. We really have.
Cool.
In some of her marketing brochures, she has herself cracking a whip.
Yes.
So she
And that
says,
goes back to
"Whip
the
it good."
training, trying to train you for 25 years. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you beat me to saying that. Yeah.
That's what I need.
Well, what do you find most gratifying or most enjoyable about working together as as family, as spouses?
You want to answer that, Ellen?
Well, yeah. The one thing I've always said about working from home is that you're always working, which is kind of true because, at the drop of a hat, you can get a phone call and have to do something. But when there's 2 of you together working, you can share tasks. Actually, recently, I've put my real estate license as inactive, and I'm now handling more of the marketing and administrative tasks for Barbara. So that gives her more time to concentrate on sales and grooming customers. So that's worked out very well for us. But it's good to have your right-hand man, more or less. And she's my right-hand man. I'm her right-hand man.
Yeah,
So
we've always worked together great as a team. And I know some husband and wives, they love being out at work because they get away from each other. But I have my little office set up downstairs, off the kitchen. He's got his office upstairs in our den. And so it works out because we're separated that way, but we have each other to lean on. If I've got paperwork that needs done, or I need photos that put in a listing, or, I need marketing materials printed out, whatever it is, Alan's right there to help me do it. So it's worked out so well because I'm the organized person. He's really good, with handling stressful situations. I've never met anybody that it has more patience than Alan does. And me, I'm like, and he's like, oh, it's okay, So he's always handled customers well that way too, if we have a volatile situation with a customer. So our personalities that are so different have really made this teamwork work.
Cool.
Excellent. That just leads right into the next question. Pretty well answers it actually, because it was about like, how do you guys divide the work? How do you did you identify your individual strengths early on and work to those strengths and separate? Like I'm a tech geek. I do all the tech, and Connie and computers, they have a very uneasy piece, so it kind of naturally falls that way. But for you guys, it sounds sort of similar.
Yeah,
it sounds like, if I heard right, Alan, you're the not only the calm anchor, I guess, there, but calming force, but also it sounds like maybe on the creative side, or do you share that equally?
I kind of tend to think that Barbara is a little bit more creative than me, but I can take her creativity and put it into practice, or
Okay,
something physical.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
and he's better with the technology than I am.
Okay.
When I have a computer problem, it's I'm calling that one.
There you go.
yeah.
Speed dial
Yep.
or speed yell.
Yes. Yes.
I can really relate to what you said about having the separate spaces, and even when we had a physical office, we were at opposite ends of a building that had once housed many more people than just the two of us. So
Right.
we were, we'd get together for lunch and say, "Well, how's your morning been?"
But now
Sounds weird.
I'm right there.
Yeah, now we're 6 feet apart if we're in the same office.
I don't think it's 6 feet.
Not even.
Yeah,
3
and
feet.
I know there's a lot of family teams or husband and wife teams that don't work out. So you really have to have that right personality combination, or different skills and strengths that complement each other. And that's what is with us. I'm very, very organized, not so much Alan, but he knows where everything is and he can get it done. I make a list of things that need done. He gets it done. So we know how to work well together. I mean, it's pretty much been a blessing.
Outstanding.
And it's worked well for 20 plus years.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
so-
going on 22 years married, but we're going on 25 years we've actually worked together.
Right.
And those years where you were, I think you said 2009 to 2020, where you were the broker working with the other lady, and Alan, you were working in the construction. Was there any overlap between your work at that point? Were you like working together separately, or really just working?
Well,
on
we worked in the same building, the sales office. We had separate offices. My office was much nicer.
Because I gave it to him.
As you gave it to me, yes. But anyway, yes, we had separate offices. We're two separate employees for this company, and but we still bounced things off of each other and helped each other when the situation called for it.
But I think he meant when I went to work for the other company, and as a transaction coordinator. But we still worked
Oh,
well together then as well because, he would be busy maybe with a new construction home and need help with something on that as far as paperwork and things of sort, which I'm really good at. I would have, a full-time job, and I ended up training new agents as well. I got my certification to do that when I was a transaction coordinator. So he would come up with ideas, that I could help in training programs as well. So we still kind of ran ideas by each other and pretty much worked together that way too. And I was actually only there a couple of years, because once all of the new construction ended up paying out and now we were just on resales, I actually went out into the resale market too and worked with people from the England, the United Kingdom, because that was a very hot market at the time. So Allen stayed in our community and sold a lot of resales there while I was out working in outside communities that had a lot of British buyers coming over to buy.
Okay.
So we had like two different niches going on at the same time.
So we had a different British invasion.
Mhm.
I remember
Yeah.
a friend, this was back in the early 2000s, I think, but he came over a couple of times and he was looking at property, and he said he knew several people who owned property in the Davenport area. And I always
That's
wondered
right.
what it was about Davenport that just became this little, collection point. But
Disney World.
It was Disney.
yeah, it was
Okay.
a bedroom community for Disney World, and for
Because it was close to
most of the British buyers who were buying homes for investment. They would buy them, maybe use them themselves for a couple of weeks a year, but the rest of the time they were being rented out to other Brits that were coming over to visit, and it was quite lucrative for them.
Right.
But then it became oversaturated, and I think it still is today.
Like
But
many
one
towns.
one nice thing that happened from that, and me having the British market niche, was that in 2008, when the market totally crashed and mortgages, went belly up, and it was a really bad time, I contacted a lot of my British homeowners, and they were doing short-term rentals, in the Disney area. And I said, they weren't going to get many people renting their homes because of the market, and people had lost so much money. So I said, how about if we turn those into long-term rentals? And that way, you will have a solid, steady income. The renters will pay for all the utilities, and you'll have something to work with until the market turns around again, which would probably be a couple of years. So that was when I had the creative idea to pivot, to keep ourselves in business. And at one time I actually had 30 long-term rental listings.
wow.
And it wasn't the same, amount of commission income you get from a sale, but it was still money coming in that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Right.
So
Right.
Ellen and I were always good that way too. In, when a situation would come about, we would, figure out, together, how do we change this? How do we pivot to make it work? So
That's so important to business, and even though, well, you own your own brokerage, but whether you're working for somebody else or a combination, it's being able to adjust quickly, and so what you did, you got curious, and that's so powerful. I really respect that.
yeah, and he really helped me on that as well, because there were things that would come up with tenants, that the owners were in England. So if they needed something immediately, they didn't really have property managers looking after a lot of their homes, but Alan would drop everything and run and look, if a water pipe, was leaking or whatever. So, there was a lot of things that we did together, even on the rentals.
Cool.
I was Mr. Fix-It.
There you go.
Well,
It's just
value
that
added.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Value
Yeah.
added, wonderful. Is there a particular I would say, challenge. You guys have got a kind of a unique perspective in being together so long and working, together and separately. Is there a challenge as a couple in business that you've overcome that others could learn a lesson from?
Oh boy. The only challenge that I can think of is being able to diversify your strengths. Of course, we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. And when we were working in the same community, with seniors, the challenge for me was my lack of patience because, a lot of people that are, elderly and have specific situations come up where they can be very testy is a good word to put it. And Alan always had the most patience for that. As far as challenges for each other, I really can't think of any because we've always worked so well together. But I will say that when you are a couple or a family, you have to figure out those strengths and weaknesses and try and pass on whatever you're weak at to another person so that, you all work together to make it happen and to make
And
it
the
work.
job gets done.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So
Because there were
yeah.
certain people that I just could not work with. Like I just, oh man, I've had enough, but he would take over and make it work because he had the patience and the personality that he could, smooth everything over and get the job done.
And by focusing on those strengths, did you find that, and each working to their strengths, did that make it better for the relationship, stronger, strengthening the relationship by doing that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so because I think we really admire each other and understand what each of us can or can't do. And, I think when you give each other credit, because I would admit, hey, I can't handle this person. I can't do this, but I knew he could. So I think if you give each other the credit for what you are good at, that's a bonus because you don't, working as a family or a couple, you don't have the time to be jealous, because they can do something you can't, or, to be wishing you were more like them or whatever. You just have to understand everybody's different and everybody has a different way of working with challenges. And you just toss it over to the person that's going to get it done the best.
And flexibility.
Right.
And you, both of you have shown a lot of flexibility with pivoting. I mean, you've pivoted how many times now?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a
lot.
few.
And
Quite a
that's
few.
admirable because especially as we get a little older, we don't like to do that as much. But we actually have to do it more, I think, older than what we did when we were younger. So,
I agree.
and
even
kudos to
now,
you.
even now with the market the way it is, it's
Absolutely.
been very difficult. I mean, we
Sure.
know how difficult real estate is right now. It's just been, especially since moving to Tampa, which we did for our daughter and granddaughters, that was the main reason. And family is everything to us, as it should be. But it's been an uphill battle because, you come into a new area, a new market, that is saturated with realtors that have been here for decades. And so naturally, you're an unknown, you're in a new place and you're unknown and you've started a new company and people don't know your experience, and some don't care. But we've really been fortunate and blessed to have picked up business over here now too. In fact, I'm on my way over to Davenport this afternoon because we still get occasional listings over there, which we have an agent over there who handles everything for us. And, she gets a good split for doing that. But I've just picked up a listing in Lutz this year, and I'm getting another one in the Tampa area. And we just traveled all the way to Bonita Springs to help out a friend with her parents' home. So you never know where you're going to end up. But we're starting to be more known, and I thank networking for that, because unless you're out there networking, and that's how I met the two of you, people really don't know you, and they don't know your personality, and they don't know if they can trust you. And you know, it's the old saying, whoever you know, like, and trust. So that's starting to finally come back to us, where we're getting referral business. And it's enough. You know, I didn't come over here to try and be, you know, a six-figure income realtor. I just wanted to have enough business to see us through for a few more years, and it's happening.
And to pay
Wonderful.
for those cruises.
Yes. Yes. Which, of course, Alan is wanting another one for his birthday in July, so that's booked.
Have you been a
All
good boy?
right. So that's what's next.
I think I have. Yeah.
Good.
Well, if it's booked,
Yeah,
I guess you.
that whip works good.
There
It
you go.
does, yeah. It's a good
goodness,
influencer.
So much wisdom in all of this. I think the lesson I want to tease out of that last little part you were talking about is that it does take time. We live in these times of you know, fame and instant fame and appearance of instant fame and social media and big splashes and, you know, hey, look at me kind of stuff. But the real guts of it is, it takes time to get to know people, and they become familiar, and that trust is built over time. It has to be earned. It's not
It's
given.
absolutely right, because I'm just into my 4th year as my own company, and the first year we lost because of COVID. So you're talking maybe 3 years, but going into this year, I'm just now seeing. I mean, we had a little bit of business, but not enough. But this year, I'm just now seeing a turnaround. So yes, it does take time.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the other thing I really wanted to come back to and call out was the you were talking about, you know, giving credit. I think especially in families, there's a tendency in families to take each other for granted, right? They've always been there, and they always will be, and we don't always give our families our best, right? We save our best for the outside world, you know, the people we're trying to impress, and we feel like we don't have to impress our families because they're stuck with us. And so there's a tendency not to do those things, that say thank you and give credit and edify each other and really and credit or recognition. I learned in my short corporate career that recognition matters, and it goes so far, just a little bit, and it's really important. So kudos for that.
It absolutely does. And I know Alan is good for doing this too. I mean, we always tell each other, you know, thank you for helping me with this. Thank you for doing that for me. You know, and always support each other, you know, in what we're trying to do. You know, I'm proud of you, you know, good job. So even if it's family, those things need to be said.
I'm proud of you is something I don't think we could ever hear enough.
Yeah.
That's just a perfect place to wrap. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your story and your journey. And we wish you the very best. I want to make sure I get connection points in the show notes to how to reach you. So I know you have a website. What is the website? Is whippetproperties.com?
No, it's whippetpropertiesflorida.com. There's no of in there, but it's whippetpropertiesflorida.com.
Excellent. We'll get that in there, and any social media links that you want to put in there, we'll put those in as well.
Okay. It was great.
Absolutely.
And tell Polk County hello for us.
Thank you for having us.
We will
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.